Welcome to Rebuilding LA After the Fires. I'm Jan Bresky, and in this podcast, I explore how Los Angeles recovers from the recent devastating wildfires. In each episode, I sit down with developers, community leaders, and other real estate professionals to uncover what it really takes to rebuild homes and neighborhoods. If you're looking to understand what's next for LA, you're in the right place. Let's get started. I'm excited for today's guest, Devang Shah. And Devang, thanks for joining us. I'm excited to hear about what you're doing with Genesis Builders.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Why don't we start out with your own career trajectory and how did you come to this point? I know Genesis is doing some great things to kind of bring down the cost of rebuilding for homeowners in Altadena, but walk us through your career and how you got to this point.
Yeah. Well, I've been in the industry for almost 27 years right out of college. I used to be with a consulting firm called RCLCo for about 7 years. Worked around the country, back in 98 to say 2007 or so. The space was dominated in the for sale industry. Lots of home building, master planning, did a lot of consulting work around the country with developers, land developers, home builders. So since then, after that, I joined KB Home for a few years prior to the GFC. That was kind of where my home building experience came from. As the result of the GFC, I actually left KB Home and joined Cityview in 2007. So it's been a good run with them. I kind of started in the asset management side. Cityview at the time was primarily an LP investor in for sale developments around the country. The GFC caused a lot of their builders to go bankrupt or insolvent. And so there was a lot of work out that needed to be done with assets around the country. And so I was kind of brought in to kind of help with that. And that's what I spent a lot of the GFC period doing, is working out a lot of those deals, re-entitling them, rebuilding them, and eventually, selling those assets or selling those homes, retail or wholesale. So it's where I kind of cut my teeth in I like to say. And then, soon thereafter in 2010, Cityview pivoted to multifamily acquisitions and then eventually became a fully vertically integrated multifamily shop. I've been for the last 8 years co-head of acquisitions for Cityview, and that all changes this year.
So Cityview has been building for rent apartments. I know that you've have projects in urban locations like LA, Oakland, places like that. Is Cityview continuing? Let's come back to it if we have time. I'd like to know if Cityview is continuing with their program of building large-scale apartments for rent as well. Can you just give me sort of a quick overview of that? Is that downshifting a little bit, or is it continuing?
It is not, in fact. Cityview is still going to continue to do that. Cityview has a series of discretionary funds from both public and private pensions. And they are deploying those funds through their platform to continue to develop multifamily and acquisition of multifamily as well. So
right.
It's not just development.
I'd like to come back. I'd like to come back to that because the key is to talk about Genesis Builders today. But I'm also interested in within the context of California development in general, certain types of development are necessary, like rebuilding these areas that burned. Other parts have gotten harder, like building sort of podium-style apartments in LA, I think is sort of downshifted, is what I'm hearing from all of the community that I know. But let's come back to that if we have time. So what's the service that Genesis Builders is offering, and how did this come about? If I understand it correctly, it's sort of a fixed price. You can rebuild, you can choose from a certain number of designs, you can pick one of a few different styles, so you actually have, between the different sizes of homes and styles, you can have quite a bit of customization, but you're getting it for a fixed price, which is far less than the cost of a custom home where you would hire an architect and a GC. Is that right?
That's right. But let's take a step back for a second. You asked me a good question. How did Genesis come about? And there's a story behind it in that, Cityview is located here in LA. We saw what happened to both Palisades and Altadena on January 7th. And it behooved us to think about what resources we have and ability we have to have an impact. Our firm and Sean Burton has had a civic role in the city for decades. And so, soon after the fires, we decided, I think the best way to kind of leverage our knowledge and experience is to actually find a solution for the people to be able to rebuild, right? Now, Palisades quite different from Altadena. So to kind of take one step at a time, we decided to focus on Altadena. What we did is we joint ventured with a gentleman by the name of Stephen Ross, who represents Montage Development. They're a partner of ours. We've done a lot of developments with them, single family, multifamily, townhome developments in Los Angeles, all the way up to the Central Coast. We have a long trusted relationship for over 2 decades. And so we joint ventured to bring the resources of both the firms to be able to deliver this solution. And what's important about that solution is we're able to leverage the subcontractor base, both from the commercial side and also from the home building side, right? To be able to drive pricing down. Our goal was to simplify the process and drive pricing down so that more people, even with lower insurance proceeds, can actually rebuild, right? That was our first goal. In terms of the program that we developed, we reverse engineered the program, right? We started with the problem. The problem is homes burned down, right? And as a homeowner, you have no experience of building a home, most likely. Most don't. 2, you have no idea what things are going to cost. 3, you don't know what the process is. 4, it's scary out there in construction, irrespective of whether you're in the industry or not, right?
And there's an additional point is you don't know who you can trust, right? Because a lot of GCs,
that's the biggest thing is the trust.
The pricing can scale up after you agree to a price. The actual pricing can come out being much, much higher, right?
Right. So we said, look, why don't we design something that honors the architecture and takes into account what's been destroyed in Altadena. So we actually spent a couple months researching and understanding what were the different size of homes that were destroyed, what was the different lot dimensions of the homes in Altadena, and we studied the Altadena Community Design Standard District to understand what limitations there are that also impact the design of a home. Based on that information, we developed these 6 plans, right? Ranging from 1,250 to 2,200 square feet, representing more than 70% of what was destroyed. Now,
question.
Yeah.
Question. I want to jump in with the questions as you go. Are these plans pre-approved already, or some of them have been approved, others not? Do you have someone in the county office that said, okay, I've looked at them, as long as the setbacks fit the lot size works for that design, it's pre-approved, or is it not quite that easy?
It is and it's not. So the pre-approval that we received for all 24 homes, so there are 6 plans, each come in a different architectural style. And then we have 3 ADUs, which also come in the 4 architectural styles. So in total, we have 24 homes and 12 ADUs. The homes and the structure has been fully pre-approved. What is not approved is a specific house on a specific lot, which is your site approval. So we went through about a 90-day approval process on each one of these homes. It's reviewed by planning. Really, most of the back and forth in the pre-approval stage goes through building and safety, or as they call it, public works in LA County. The only department that hasn't reviewed is the fire department. And the only reason fire department doesn't review in the pre-approval stage is because it's not site specific.
Okay, we've got so much to cover, and this could easily be an hour conversation, but that's not the design. Our audience is expecting 25 to 30 minutes. So this is potentially incredibly valuable for homeowners that lost their home because they have a certain amount of money to rebuild, and they may not have enough money to actually pursue a custom home with the custom architect, or they may just be afraid that they don't understand the process and that the cost could spiral out of control, and then they're out of money potentially. Right. So you're offering a fixed price with possibly an ADU. You got all these different sizes and you got different designs, and you can mix and match. So what is the cost per square foot range for the main house ballpark? It doesn't have to be precise. Give me
it's around $400 to $500. Smaller the home, the more per square foot.
And what do you think it would cost if you hire an architect and design a custom home? What do you think that range would be realistically?
I mean, that could be anywhere from 500 to 700-800 a square foot.
Okay. So I think there's an incredible value proposition there, and you get the cost down by using subcontractors that you've used before and negotiating, and also scale economies, right? So do you have to sign up a certain number of clients to make sure that you can get the scale economies, or is that a risk that's going on to you and your contractors where they've said, we believe you're going to get enough that we can deliver our services for X price?
It's a risk that I call it risk, but it's not really a risk, but it is something that we don't put the onus on the homeowner to have to go find 4 other people to build homes with. That we're managing with our pipeline. We have about 30 families we're working with right now.
Okay, so 30 families, but there were 6,000 homes burned down roughly, right? So how many per year for this to feel like, it's been worthwhile? How many per year do you want to do so that it, at a minimum, so that it feels like it was worthwhile? Because to me, it's clear that even if you don't get as many as you expect, you're still committing to deliver on the pricing that you said for those people that do sign up. But how many per year are you thinking you need to make it really work?
Don't know. It can range. I would say
dozens.
We can produce 75 to 100 homes a year. We could potentially scale up even further. And that's kind of what we're targeting right now.
So if you did 100 a year for 10 years, that's 1,000. That would be 16% of the homes in the neighborhood, roughly, that have burned down. And that again, thinking if I were a homeowner, I would absolutely dig into what you're offering, because I don't think anybody could easily replicate that. If you're comfortable with the designs, right? You're not going to be able to match the pricing and the timeline too, right? Because you're also committing to a certain timeline. What's the timeline?
It's a guaranteed 12-month construction timeline from after we receive the permit. And
how long does it take if someone says, I'm picking option A, 1A or 2C, how long until they'll have the permit? You'll have the permits for them roughly.
It's about 4 months. Yep. It's about 4 months.
Okay. Yeah. So 16 months from decision to go to having your house, 16 months. It's incredible. I mean, I got to say, hats off to you for doing this. This is the first time I've been able to interview somebody that's got a concrete solution that I think is really, it's kind of heartening with all the bad news we've had in the last year. It's a really neat service. How about fire resistance? How important is that, and how are you accomplishing that?
Yeah, it's extremely important. I will tell you, as builders, we sometimes take it for granted. We don't realize that we have to build things a certain way to a certain code, right? The code mandates certain fire resistant features, particularly in certain zones. So all our homes meet Chapter 7A California Building Code requirements. They in fact exceed it. We're actually benchmarking closer to the IBHS wildfire prepared base standard, right? Which is kind of what the insurance companies look at for insurability.
Okay, so you're talking about this has to do with the roofs, the kind of roofs you're using, I guess. Does it have to
It
do
has to
with
do with the number of
where the
elements.
plants are placed relative to the house as well?
Correct. There's roofing, a Class A fire rated roof. We have fire resistant enclosed. The eaves are enclosed. The soffits are enclosed. The gutters are covered. All our porches, patios are all concrete as opposed to wood or decking. The house is fully fire sprinklered. The exterior, whether it's siding or stucco, those are all fire rated materials. And then obviously the landscaping and the non-combustible zone around the home.
Okay.
So those are the main kind of items.
I want to ask you about spec development. Have you considered, or is this maybe not part of the spirit of what you're trying to do, doing some houses on spec where you just build them and people that want to buy them? Because I would think that some people would really enjoy being able to not even have to go through the 16 months process, but rather, and also the financing may be different, right? In order to, so just some people might just like to say, this works for me. I just want to get a loan for this and buy it. Have you considered doing any sort of models?
It's been a
spec homes?
discussion around that. I would say we haven't ruled it out, but at the moment we're not.
Okay.
I think part of it is we want to focus on folks that want to rebuild.
Right.
You're right. There are folks that don't want to go through that process, and that could be a good solution for them as well. But at the moment, we're focused on getting, folks to rebuild.
And do you have a design studio set up yet where people can come in and see the finishes, or is that still coming in the future?
In the works. We're targeting kind of end of January. We've got a location at 1365 North Hill Avenue. So it's border Pasadena. It's actually Pasadena, but border Altadena. And so that should be opening kind of late January.
Can you repeat the address?
1365 North Hill Avenue.
Okay. And the end of January. I'm going to drop by there because I want to see how it looks and what the finishes are and what you're offering and what the houses look like too. What about ADUs? So I read in an article in the LABJ that the ADUs, for a 2-bedroom ADU, the price can be as low as $240 a square foot. Did I read that correctly, or is that out of date information?
It's around $300 a square foot, depending on the ADU size, a 2-bedroom. But no, that's about accurate. The reason why we can price the ADUs as low as they are is because we're building it while we're building the home.
Right.
So your soft costs associated with building it, site supervision, and so on and so forth, all of that is already covered in the home cost. So that's why it's more of an add-on. We couldn't, if you told me, hey, can you build this ADU on my lot only, it would cost nearly twice as much.
I see.
Because it doesn't include site improvements, because that's covered in the home cost. It doesn't include soft costs, field supervision, all those things, because it's already covered in the home cost.
And it seems like a lot of your clients that are signing up are adding the ADU as well, right?
It's about 50%.
Okay. And the uptake in general, how long have you been out there taking orders essentially? How long have you been open for business so far with Genesis Builders?
I think we started towards the later part of July.
Okay.
And have everything pre-approved, finalize our pricing, get the bids, know our costs. Mm-hmm. So it's about right. So it's been about 4 months.
And how's the uptake been so far relative to kind of what you thought? It's hard to know because there's so many houses that need to be rebuilt. But again, I mean, it feels to me like if somebody actually wants to rebuild their own home, they're not going to beat the pricing that you're offering. And you're the first one into Altadena that I'm aware of who's saying, here's an actual program with a company that's standing behind it, that's a very experienced, reputable group of people. I would think the uptake would be pretty rapid, but my experience with these interviews has been almost everything's happening slower than I expected originally.
It was slower to begin with, I think. And that's partly because it's a lot of education with the clientele, and there's a lot of hesitation. Some folks believe it's too good to be real. Some people want to touch and feel things. There are a number of people that are now working through their ability to finance the homes, right? So they're still working out their insurance issues, which haven't been straightforward. And the Edison settlement is playing a part as well.
So the Edison settlement. So just rough numbers, if somebody rebuilds a 2,000 square foot house, they might owe about $1 million to build that, $500 a square foot. Right. So if they add an ADU, it could be a little bit more than $1 million.
Million one, yeah.
What is the Edison settlement in dollars, and when is it coming through?
So the Edison settlement, there's two different things. One is a class action lawsuit. That lawsuit is going to take a while. That's not what we're talking about. So Edison has come out with a proposed settlement for people that don't want to pursue the class action lawsuit. I'm not the best at telling you exactly the details. It varies on each individual situation, but they have a formula set based on how large the home was, how many people are in the home, so on and so forth.
How does it compare if the cost to rebuild a 2,000 square foot home is around $1 million? Is it coming close to that dollar amount, or is it coming short of that?
I mean, I think it does come short of it, because I think right now the way Edison is looking at it, they say, well, remove your insurance payment from that, and so the balance will pay you. Now there's a lot of fighting back and forth on that, so I think it's a little bit of an art of negotiating with Edison to kind of ultimately get what you want. But you could, if you were uninsured, you could potentially get up to 900 to $1 million.
I see. And if somebody was insured, then they're saying, get your insurance settlement and we'll kind of offer you the balance so you can rebuild.
Something like that, yeah.
I see. And have the people been getting their insurance settlements already? Is that coming through, or is it all negotiating?
No, I think a lot of the folks that we're working with that have pulled the trigger, most of them have already sorted out where they are with their insurance, right? There may be additional buckets that they will tap into once they commence a final contract, but for the most part, those folks have. There are, I would say, 10% that are waiting on Edison settlement.
And what else have we not covered that you think is important to talk about on today's podcast?
I think it's pretty simple. I mean, we touched on a lot of it. I think one of the benefits when you talk about cost is not just the commercial leveraging of our subcontractors, but it's also you're not making a ton of decisions, right? If you were to hire an architect, you could spend $50,000 to $100,000 on architectural fees, structural fees, and then that process can take 4 to 6 months. You've designed something that you may not be able to afford. You submit it to the county. That takes about 3 months. So you could be 9 months in and you have permit in hand and realize, I can't even afford this home. And they've wasted a ton of money. So with ours, we don't even charge for architectural or structural. It's already included in our price. We've already paid for it. It's already done. So that's the other benefit.
Right. I mean, making the hundreds and hundreds of decisions that you have to make to build a custom home, a lot of people don't have time to do it. You know, they may be raising kids, they may be both have jobs, or a whole bunch of reasons why it's easier to not make all those decisions. So switching gears for a minute, how many homes per year do you think will be built in Altadena if you had to estimate? You know, we've got, again, 6,000 homes were burned roughly, or 6,000 lots were burned. Do you think we'll get 500 to 600 a year built, which would be a pace for like a 10 to 12 year rebuild? Or do you think it's slower or faster than that?
I think it's going to pick up in the next year. People have to make some decisions, right? And when I say that, you know, most people's loss of use either ends within 2 to 3 years. We're already a year into it at this point. So I think a lot of people are going to have to make some decisions over the next 6 months. And I think we will see a flood of people deciding what they want to do. And a lot of them may start their rebuild.
Did you say loss of use? Loss of use is the term you used, right?
Correct.
And was that an insurance industry term?
Yeah. Loss of use means you get the insurance company pays you for up to 3 years to rent an apartment or your other housing option while your house is being rebuilt.
So they have to, if they want to, if they have a 16-month lead time, they only have 8 months left or something to pull the trigger and get the new house built within the 3 years from the fire.
Yeah, but then if they have the means, they can rent a place while their home is getting built. But right now, it's at least being covered by insurance.
So there's likely to be a lot of pickup. In the first year, will there be how many homes will have broken ground in the first year? Do you have a general sense of that, or not exactly?
Not offhand. I think a good place to look for that is what's been permitted in the county, and I think that's around 500 to 600.
Okay. So maybe we're on a pace of 500 to 600 a year, but you think it'll pick up in the next year or two and be higher than that?
I think it'll be higher than that, and then it slows down. What's also going to happen, and this is again just my humble opinion, is Altadena is a nice location. It's surrounded by very expensive neighborhoods. In itself was an expensive neighborhood. We're in Southern California. It's a housing crisis here, right? And so people from other areas will start to come in and consider Altadena if there are options available as the community starts to rebuild, right? Because it provides a housing solution for folks that don't want to buy something old, dilapidated in other parts of LA, but also need in and around this area.
Have you had anybody come to you and say, I'm going to buy a lot and then I want to hire you to build my house on it? In other words, they didn't lose their house in the fire, but they're going to be new Altadena residents? Has that happened yet or not yet?
There's a few people that have. We haven't contracted with anybody at the moment. They're still working through the financing aspect of having a construction loan in addition to the existing mortgage. These are kind of more one-off individuals as opposed to investors per se.
Is financing a big challenge that you're seeing that is holding people back from moving forward with Genesis Builders?
Financing is a challenge as it relates to folks that don't have enough insurance proceeds relative to the final costs. So there isn't a product in the market that allows them to preserve their original mortgage and then provides a second mortgage to build their home. That product does not exist. Now, there's some exception to that. Bank of America, I know, is working on a product where they will provide the gap financing for their existing mortgagees. Got it.
Okay. And coming back to the bigger development picture, your company is based in LA. The founding companies are both based in the LA area of Genesis Builders. And what do you think is the next, other than rebuilding in the fire zones, what's your take on the development, kind of what's in the future for development in Southern California and LA? Are you bullish? I know costs have gotten very high for building sort of podium style apartment buildings, the kinds of things that your prior company has and the founding company has been working on. But what's going to make sense in LA County other than rebuilding in the fire zones, do you think, from all of your experience?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's still opportunity to build smaller lot developments, right? Lower density neighborhoods, townhome developments, some single family. It is a built out community, generally speaking. So those opportunities are far and fewer between. If you look at what the state's done, they're trying to find opportunities to boost housing as well in what is already a supply constrained market. So if we start to see some easing on regulations regarding entitlement and approvals, you'll start to see some bounce back of, being able to produce housing. And I think, as Genesis is right now, we're just entirely focused on rebuilding in Altadena, but there's no reason we couldn't, continue to leverage this platform we've created to provide, reasonably affordable housing. I wouldn't say affordable, but market rate, but yet achievable housing in this market.
And what about SB 1123, which lets you build multiple units on a vacant lot? Does that apply in Altadena?
It does apply. Yeah. I think there are a few people that are considering it, but we're not working with anybody at the moment.
Thank you, Devang, for explaining what you're doing at Genesis Builders. It seems like a really exciting platform that you're creating that really meets a need. And that's what this interview series is all about, is trying to find the stories that we can feel good about as LA residents, that things are moving in the right direction again after this horrible series of fires. And it seems like you're really meeting a need. So I think of the audience for our podcast, hopefully they'll reach out to you if they're a potential customer. And I'm confident that your platform will find different uses for all those skills that you brought together and all of those sort of competencies that you're building to do smaller scale development in LA County, but a lot of units, but a small number per lot, because that seems to be what most people in LA want. They want to live in a medium to lower density neighborhood if they can.
Especially as the demographics continue to change.
Yeah. All right, Devang, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share our story.
Thanks for listening to Rebuilding LA After the Fires. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend or neighbor who might benefit. Be sure to check the show notes for links and resources I mentioned today. And join me next time for more important insights into LA's rebuilding efforts.